and airspeed, have it just nailing, staying right on altitude. It's almost like flying with an autopilot, even though you don't have one. On a smooth day, you can trim it out. You're in level flight. Hey, you can let go of it for like 30 seconds. It's still going to stay right there, whatever. Helicopter's not that way. So nose down, nose up is the biggest difference between it and an airplane. So when you're flying instruments in a helicopter, you kind of want to keep an extra gander on the old airspeed and your VSI and your your artificial horizon to make sure that you're not in a nose high or nose low position. When you're flying an airplane, there's a lot less of that included in the scan, as far as like your airspeed and your VSI, because whatever you got it trimmed for, unless you make a big power change, it's pretty much going to stay right there. If you got it trimmed out for level flight, it's going to stay in level flight. This thing is not going to stay in level flight. All right, so if you were to let go, now just kind of let go of the stick for a second, I'll show you. And it'll do something different. It won't stay level, all right? So see the nose starting to come up, our speed starting to go down. Okay, so they're not pitch, they're not stable in pitch up and down like an airplane is, so anyway. All right, tell you what, let's come on up to 2,000 and we'll put the foggles on a little bit, let you get some. I'm just going to have you hold course and staying at 2,000 feet, so. Helicopter is also not very roll stable either, by the way. But the pitch, the stability of pitch is where you end up getting way off altitude. So you get distracted for a bit and you don't notice that you're climbing or descending. And it's easy to get off altitude in a helicopter when you're on instruments because it's not pitch stable at all. The airplane is pretty pitch stable. Trim it out. Like I say, heck, if you had, a lot of guys have these little, you call them wing levelers, where it would just fly a heading, So hell, you could trim the aircraft out, but this is an airplane. You could trim the airplane out for level flight, and then use a little wing leveler that would just, track a heading. And hell, that's about all the autopilot you needed, So.
Yep.
But these things here are a lot more unstable. That's why I always joke with people when they get instrument rating. This is an instrument rating is the only rating that an instrument rating in a helicopter is the only rating that you hope you never actually have to use. All right, you don't want to go IMC in a helicopter.
Yeah, doesn't sound that fun.
Yeah, well, the main reason being, and most time, say you're flying EMS, and you're only, most time we're 1,500 feet or lower to the ground, So you're never more than about 15, 20 seconds away from dead at any time, right? So you get disoriented in IMC, and you let your nose come down, and you just come screaming out of the sky and auger into the ground, which happens fairly frequently when EMS ships unfortunately go IMC. It's a bad deal, It's a different thing if you're in an airplane and you're up at 10,000 feet. All right, number one, the airplane is pitch stable. It's much more roll stable than a helicopter is. So even if you were to, and let's say you were 0-0, you couldn't see anything out the window, but you got it trimmed out and you're on, not even without an autopilot. Well, let's say if it, for some reason it did get away from you, you were looking down, looking at something, and you were in a spiral and didn't realize it, whatever. You got a lot of time to save your own butt. You're 10,000 feet in the air, and if you lose a couple thousand feet, whatever, you're not gonna, you're never, you got plenty of time to make it right and redeem yourself, In a helicopter at low level, especially at night, you do not have time. I mean, you're, like I say, I'm sort of joking, but a little bit. You're only about 20 seconds away from dead at any time, So, flying an EMS at night, low level, the last thing you want to do is punch up into the clouds or something, because that's what happened with Kobe Bryant, the guy that, the guy that was flying with him. He ended up, I know absolutely for sure the description that they have, it sounds like he went inadvertent IMC and decided to climb. Where he was at in their Calabas, there is those hills right there by the bark parks where they crashed. And anyway, there's hills, and I'm sure he knew there was hilly region there. So when he started, so he probably did sort of the zoom climb, tried to climb up quickly. Well, there's a phenomenon, it doesn't matter if it's an airplane, helicopter, whatever, if you pull the nose up and climb quickly, you have the sensation of tumbling backwards. You feel like you're tumbling backwards. So if he was totaled 0-0 and he did a zoom climb up and got the sensation of totaling, feeling like he's tumbling backwards, and he pushed forward on the stick, listening to his body and not looking at the instruments, if he pushed forward on the stick, that would explain why he came screaming just a damn near straight down out of the clouds right into the sky, right into the ground, So anyway, operating IMC, low level, and a helicopter is a recipe for disaster. So like I said, you hope it's the one rating that you never really have to use as a helicopter instrument rating. If you don't mind, on your range button, that's the RNG button, hit the up arrow. But hit it one more time. One more time. Okay. You can leave it right there. OT3, that was the airport that was at Marble Hill. But it's gone. It's not there anymore.
No, we put on the goggles.
Yeah, go ahead. We're at 2000. I have the aircraft.
Yeah, the aircraft.
You have the goggles.
Nice.
All right, you have the aircraft.
Cape Tower, Beechcraft 93550.
We're just looking for level flight, non-course.
Beechcraft 93550 Sierra, Cape Tower.
550, I'm 10 miles to the southeast, inbound. I'd like to try a practice approach, ILS runway 10.
Beechcraft 93550 Sierra, practice approach approved, maintain VFR, no separation surfaces provided. Report Dutch inbound for runway 10. The wind is 080 at 7 and altimeter 3035.
3035, report Dutch inbound, 55 Sierra.
All right, looking pretty good. So when you're flying actual IFR, if you get 100 feet off of altitude, and by the way, I don't expect you to be able to nail an altitude right off the bat here starting flying a helicopter, so I'm not implying that you ought to be, 20 feet off altitude or less all the time. But when you're actually flying and you get 100 feet off altitude, and if you're consistently at, 100 feet or more off altitude, a lot of times the controllers will give you a altimeter setting. They'll say, 201 Tango Bravo, current altimeter, 2998 or whatever. That's your hint. He's giving you a hint that he sees that you're off altitude. And maybe he thinks, okay, well, maybe his altimeter's off a bit, so I'll give him a current altimeter setting. So if you're flying along on instruments and they give you an altimeter setting, that's because they've noticed that you're basically off altitude by, a set amount, usually 100 feet or somewhere between 100 and 200 feet or whatever. They'll give you an altimeter setting. All right, now, if you get 200 feet off altitude, they're going to say, 211 Tango Bravo, say altitude. All right? Don't ever lie to them. So if you're off by 200 feet, they assigned you, I've assigned you 2,000 here, right? So if I was to do that, you say, oh yeah, I'm 2,000 feet. You're 2,200. Don't ever do that. You got to fess up. So you just tell them, hey, I'm 2,200 going for 2,000, or whatever. In other words, I've seen I'm off altitude, I'm making a correction, So now if you start consistently do that, it gets more, it gets more uppity with you about, staying on altitude.